Whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but he who hates correction is stupid. A good man obtains favor from the Lord, but the Lord condemns a crafty man. A man cannot be established through wickedness, but the righteous cannot be uprooted. A wife of noble character is her husband's crown, but a disgraceful wife is like decay to his bones. The plans of the righteous are just, but the advice of the... By the way, remember that Solomon is still talking to his son here, okay? Just because we've entered the Proverbs themselves section of this book doesn't mean that the overall tone or focus has changed. It's still the same guy who was speaking in the first 9 chapters to the audience he was speaking to in the first 9 chapters. So it's still Solomon speaking to his son. Whether that son is Rehoboam or some other son or anyone who comes after him, who knows, but it's still the same speaker speaking to the same audience as it was at the beginning. The plans of the righteous are just, but the advice of the wicked is deceitful. The words of the wicked lie in wait for blood, but the speech of the upright rescues them. Wicked men are overthrown and are no more, but the house of the righteous stands firm. A man is praised according to his wisdom, but men with warped minds are despised. Better to be a nobody and yet have a servant than pretend to be somebody and have no food. A righteous man cares for the needs of his animal, but the kindest acts of the wicked are cruel. I got 3 animals back there in that bedroom, and I have to take care of them all day, every day. It gets very tiring, let me tell you. But I got to do it because it's my task. We were given the task of taking care of creation way back at the beginning. And in my case, that's part of my task, is to take care of those 3 animals back there. He who works his land will have abundant food, but he who chases fantasies lacks judgment. The wicked desire the plunder of evil men, but the root of the righteous flourishes. An evil man is trapped by his sinful talk, but a righteous man escapes trouble. From the fruit of his lips a man is filled with good things, as surely as the work of his hands rewards him. The way of a fool seems right to him, but a wise man listens to advice. A fool shows his annoyance at once, but a prudent man overlooks an insult. A truthful witness gives honest testimony, but a false witness tells lies. Well, that's not a proverb, that's basically a fact right there. Reckless words pierce like a sword, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. Truthful lips endure forever, but a lying tongue lasts only a moment. Eventually the truth will have its day. There is deceit in the hearts of those who plot evil, but joy for those who promote peace. No harm befalls the righteous, but the wicked have their fill of trouble. The Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in men who are truthful. Another cluster of proverbs there talking about lies and truth coming out of your lips. A prudent man keeps his knowledge to himself, but the heart of fools blurts out folly. Diligent hands will rule, but laziness ends in slave labor. An anxious heart weighs a man down, but a kind word cheers him up. A righteous man is cautious in friendship, but the way of the wicked leads them astray. The lazy man does not roast his game, so he doesn't take time to properly prepare his food, in other words. But the diligent man prizes his possessions. In the way of righteousness there is life. Along that path is immortality. So there's a little glimpse of the idea of becoming immortal again. I'm not sure exactly what the full meaning behind that Hebrew thought there is. But here we are in the 900s BC sometimes, and we're starting to get a little bit of a glimmer that maybe, just maybe, man can live forever again someday. We read about the loss of immortality back in the garden when they didn't eat of the right tree. And we're reading about the tree of life again here in Proverbs. So maybe there's a little bit of a connection forming here. I talked about how we're basically halfway through the story. If we consider the story to properly begin with Abraham, and the stuff before that is basically just prelude or prologue, and we go from Abraham to Jesus. Abraham lived around the year 2000 BC. Jesus comes along in the 1st century AD. And Solomon here is pretty much exactly halfway between those two. We're pretty much exactly halfway, time-wise, in the story. So maybe now we're starting, and when Solomon does look back to the garden a lot. We read about all the garden imagery in the temple that he built into the temple, and then Proverbs, Song of Solomon, and Ecclesiastes. There's a lot of Edenic imagery kind of that's called to mind throughout the works of Solomon. And again, at Solomon's peak, Israel probably came closer to replicating the garden than anyone ever has in all history. So we are kind of seeing that some of that garden imagery being called back to here again. A wise son heeds his father's instruction. So he's talking to you, son. If you're wise, you're going to heed my instruction. But a mocker does not listen to rebuke. From the fruit of his lips, a man enjoys good things, but the unfaithful have a craving for violence. He who guards his lips guards his life, but he who speaks rashly will come to ruin. The sluggard craves and gets nothing, but the desires of the diligent are fully satisfied. The righteous hate what is false, but the wicked bring shame and disgrace. Righteousness guards the man of integrity, but wickedness overthrows the sinner. One man pretends to be rich, yet has nothing. Another pretends to be poor, yet has great wealth. A man's riches may ransom his life, but a poor man hears no threat. So if you're poor, you're not going to be worried about being held for it or being attacked for your money. You're not going to have to worry about that if you're poor. The light of the righteous shines brightly, but the lamp of the wicked is snuffed out. Pride only breeds quarrels, but wisdom is found in those who take advice. Dishonest money dwindles away, but he who gathers money little by little makes it grow. Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a longing fulfilled is a tree of life. There's that tree of life imagery again. We mentioned this a few times in the book of Proverbs. Like I said, it connects this book, which is the middle of the way of the journey, with the beginning in Genesis, and also with the end in Revelation, in days to come. He who scorns instruction will pay for it, but he who respects a command is rewarded. The teaching of the wise is a fountain of life, turning a man from the snares of death. Good understanding wins favor, but the way of the unfaithful is hard. Every prudent man acts out of knowledge, but a fool exposes his folly. A wicked messenger falls into trouble, but a trustworthy envoy brings healing. Now, we don't really have this issue today. We don't use messengers quite like they did back then. If they wanted to send a message, we saw this in David's time with Uriah and all that, sending a message to and from the battle lines. And you want someone who can, we also saw it when Absalom died, the two messengers that were sent to carry the news to David. You want someone, or the messenger who carried the news about Saul's death to David, and he wasn't trustworthy because he claimed credit for Saul's death, which he actually, Saul had died, but he was skewing the story of what actually happened when he gave his report. So the idea of messenger, you need to depend on your messengers to be able to speak the message they were supposed to speak. The prophets, for example, are God's messengers. And they're supposed to speak the message that God put in their mouths to speak, and those who didn't were false prophets, and there were plenty of them. You're supposed to speak the message that you're sent to speak, and not some other message, not your own message, some message that someone is trusting you to send to somebody else. He who ignores discipline comes to poverty and shame, but whoever heeds correction is honored. A longing fulfilled is sweet to the soul. Just earlier we talked about it as being a tree of life. But fools detest turning from evil. He who walks with the wise grows wise, but a companion of fools suffers harm. So who you hang out with matters. Who you listen to and who you allow to influence you matters. Misfortune pursues the sinner, but prosperity is the reward of the righteous. Again, that's not always the case in this life. Sometimes it is, usually, maybe the default is, but not always. A good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children, but a sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous. The poor man's field may produce abundant food, but injustice sweeps it away. He who spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him is careful to discipline him. It's talking about discipline there. We talk about it in terms of corporal punishment, but it's talking more about discipline in general. The right, because we've heard a lot about correction and discipline. Okay, this book, All Thought Proverbs, has been quite an emphasis on heeding correction. Listen to what the wise people are telling you to do. If you don't do that, maybe if a person doesn't do that, then maybe it's time to take more serious measures. The righteous eat to their heart's content, but the stomach of the wicked grows hungry. The wise woman builds her house, but with her own hands the foolish one tears hers down. It doesn't necessarily mean a physical house. It means a household. It means a family. He whose walk is upright fears the Lord, but he whose ways are devious despises him. A fool's talk brings a rod to his back, but the lips of the wise protect them. Where there are... That cat wants out of that room. Oh my gosh, she is annoying. Where there are no oxen, the manger is empty, but from the strength of an ox comes an abundant harvest. Again, we don't really deal with ox today in terms of our material prosperity. A truthful witness does not deceive, but a false witness pours out lies. The mocker seeks wisdom and finds none, but the knowledge comes easily to the discerning. Stay away from a foolish man, for you will not find knowledge on his lips. The wisdom of the prudent is to give thought to their ways, but the folly of fools is deception. Fools mock at making amends for sin, but goodwill is found among the upright. Each heart knows its own bitterness, and no one else can share its joy. So we all have our sad stories, and we all have our happy stories. The house of the wicked will be destroyed, but the tent of the upright will flourish. So whether you're in a permanent dwelling of a house or a temporary dwelling of a tent, if you're wicked, you'll be swept away, and if you're righteous, you'll remain firm. There is a way that seems right to a man, but in the end it leads to death. Even in laughter the heart may ache, and joy may end in grief. The faithless will be fully repaid for their ways, and the good man rewarded for his. Again, it may not happen until the day of wrath, but it will happen. A simple man believes anything, but a prudent man gives thought to his steps. A wise man fears the Lord and shuns evil, but a fool is hot-headed and reckless. A quick-tempered man does foolish things, and a crafty man is hated. The simple inherit folly, but the prudent are crowned with knowledge. Evil men will bow down in the presence of the good, and the wicked at the gates of the righteous. And again, that may not happen until the day of wrath, but it will happen. The poor are shunned even by their neighbors, but the rich have many friends. That's just an observation of life right there. Maybe it's not supposed to be that way, but it is. He who despises his neighbor sins. The blessed is he who is kind to the needy. Do not those who plot evil go astray, but those who plan what is good find love and faithfulness. All hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. It's easy to talk about doing things. What's harder is actually doing them. We have a lot of people today, a lot of politicians today who like to talk about doing things. but not too many people who actually are able to do things. That's one of our big problems. The wealth of the wise is their crown, but the folly of fools yields folly. There's again that clear contrast between wisdom and folly. A truthful witness saves lives, but a false witness is deceitful. He who fears the Lord has a secure fortress, and for his children it will be a refuge. Now, earlier we read about the rich putting their fortified city and putting their wealth, thinking of their wealth as their fortified city. But the real fortress is fear of the Lord. The fear of the Lord is a fountain of life, turning a man from the snares of death. A large population is a king's glory, but without subjects a prince is ruined. A patient man has great understanding, but a quick-tempered man displays folly. A heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones. He who oppresses the poor shows contempt for their Maker. Whatever is kind to the needy honors God. When calamity comes, the wicked are brought down, but even in death, the righteous have a refuge. There's that day of wrath concept there again. It may not happen until the day of wrath, calamity, even in death, but it will happen. It may take until death for the score to be settled. It might happen in this life. It might. Hopefully it will. But it might not. But it will be corrected in death. It will be corrected on the day of wrath. When the day of judgment comes, the scales will be balanced. Wisdom reposes in the heart of the discerning, and even among fools she lets herself be known. So there's that wisdom concept again, personified as a woman. Righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a disgrace to any people. A king delights in a wise servant, but a shameful servant incurs his wrath.